There's 4 separate systems all working here together. All of them are using the observer pattern, but there's one fatal mistake that I've made that if you're watching, I'm sure you've made. Okay, and welcome back. Today we're tackling the single most common problem that makes Unreal Engine projects unmaintainable and prone to breaking: tight coupling. I've talked a lot about optimization, coupling, and hard references on this channel, but today I'm going to show you the most powerful weapon against all of the above: event dispatchers. The goal of good game architecture is decoupling. We want systems to talk without knowing who they're talking to. The observer pattern is a behavioral pattern, often called publish, subscribe, or pub sub. It defines 2 roles: the subject or publisher, or observer or subscriber. Forgive this shameful plug, but it's the perfect way of explaining how it works. So let's say this channel is the publisher, where you have an event dispatcher. Any one of you can subscribe to the channel and become a subscriber and get notified every time I release a new video. This would be any blueprint in Unreal Engine. The observer or subscriber is any other object like a healthbar, sound effect manager, or death system. The subject or publisher holds the important data like the health value. It simply calls out a general broadcast function. It doesn't iterate through a list, it just shouts out the new data, and every subscriber that signs up gets notified instantly. In Unreal Engine, this powerful system is built directly in the engine using delegates in C++, which are exposed to blueprints as event dispatchers. This is your primary tool for decoupling communication. So in this project, I've already created a very simple health component, Healthbar UI, sound effect manager, and visual effects manager. I'm going to show you how to properly set up the observer pattern with event dispatchers and show you the one fatal mistake that you're forgetting. Alright, so inside Unreal Engine 5.7, I have done all the logic for the systems already. So we basically have this death flower here. When I overlap with it, I take damage. Okay. I've also created a sound effect manager, which I believe is right here. Yep. Sound effect manager and a visual effects manager. So the sound effect manager is just going to play a sound. Visual effects is going to spawn a particle at my location when I take damage. So it's, just to simulate that you can do like blood splatters or like, or whatever. You can do animations. You can do anything related to this, right? Anything related to you taking damage. You can have things happen that obviously can fire off at any time. So the reason we do it this way and not with interfaces is because interfaces still can create hard references if you need a specific component or something like that. But the way we're going to do this today, we're going to not use CAS, interfaces, nothing. We're only using event dispatchers, and all of these events are going to fire off and communicate with each other without tightly coupling together. Okay, so let's start first with our health component. Okay, so the health component is going to be the publisher of this observer pattern. It's going to be the one that's saying, hey, we just took damage. If you want to do something, do it now, right? So for this health component, anytime we take damage, that's going to be handled inside of our player itself, because you'll notice if you go to class settings, class defaults, and you just type in damage, nothing shows up here. But if you go to your player, for example, and you go to class defaults, you type in damage, and this has a can be damage, and you'll notice it's under the actor tag. So that means if it's an actor, it can be damaged, and use the damage event system inside Unreal Engine, which we're going to do right now. So inside our health component, since our health cannot do that, we need to get owner. Okay, this is going to get the owner of this component, which will be our player, which will be the destructible barrel, which will be your enemy AI, whatever. So we're going to get that, and then we're going to bind to any damage, take any damage. Okay, so you see it's under game, under damage, bind event to take any damage. Okay, so this is the start of an event dispatcher. Okay, so I've created some event dispatchers over here, which we'll go on in a second, but this one is native to Unreal Engine, the on take damage. Okay, so anytime that we go into like our damage flower, for example, right, we've overlapped with our flower and we've called apply damage. Okay, this sends out the event dispatcher to the damaged actor, and we tell it to do 25 damage. So you don't have to do anything in your player, to be honest. If you don't want to, you probably would in a bigger game, but in this instance, we don't need to do anything, because once this actor takes damage, that event fires off even if it's not in the blueprint graph. And then that notifies our BP health component, because now we've binded to this event that we've just taken damage. Okay, so we're going to drag out of here, and we're going to recheck context sensitive so we get the correct stuff that works with this blueprint. We're going to go to add event, add custom event. It's going to add a custom event. We'll just say damaged. Okay, so here's all the outputs that came with that input from our damage flower, right? So there's all the inputs. We told it that we're going to damage, the overlapping actor, which in this case is our player, and then this is how much damage we're going to do. The other 3 things in this tutorial don't matter for the sake of showcasing some stuff. But anyways, so there's all of our outputs. So now we just need to go and drag our take damage function, which is just, you know, super simple, and plug in take damage. So now every time we take damage, this is told every time we take damage that this event fires. So every time we take damage, damage is going to fire. We're going to apply damage in our health component, and we are going to set our current health minus the damage, right? So then we've told Unreal Engine to call this, which is our event dispatcher. Okay, so you can just create them right here, and we can click on health updated. I'm just gonna get rid of damage so we can see some stuff. So the reason I didn't use dispatchers for a long time is because I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that you still needed to get a hard reference to bind to the event. So to me, it didn't make sense that we're getting a hard reference and then binding to an event. So I will tell you how to solve that problem later, because once I figured out the solution for that, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense now. The other reason I didn't use it is because I didn't know this was here. Like, this was kind of hidden before. Like, usually inputs are down here, so I'm like, oh, well, you can't do anything, that sucks. And I didn't look up here, but here's where you can do all of your inputs, right? So you can add inputs, different, it's the same things as, you know, every other input and stuff. You can do any of these variables here, or you can search for like an actual blueprint in your thing, but obviously be careful with that because you can create hard references that way, right? You can also copy signatures from all of these engine-based events or ones you've made, right? We've made damaged, so we can copy the variables from that, or you can copy the variables from something like, you know, destroy component or blah, 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 blah. You can copy all of those, so that's really nice. Kind of saves you some time. But we only need current health as an input for this, because we're going to tell stuff what our current health is since we took damage, okay? I also named it health updated so that you could probably split it up and do took damage or gained health or whatever. Okay, but it has to be this, it has to be named specifically because they have to subscribe specifically to this one. So it has to be named exactly what you want in order for that to happen, right? All right, so we'll take damage, we'll call health update, and now we have set up our publisher. Okay, so now that we've set up our publisher, we are going to now do our observers or subscribers, okay? So our first subscriber is going to be our health bar, because every time we take damage, obviously we're gonna wanna update our health bar, okay? So in order to get a reference to this, to the health component that we need, what we're gonna do is we're just going to add a variable here, and we're just gonna call it our health component, okay? And we're going to make that a BPC health component object reference, okay? We are going to make this instance editable and exposed on spawn. So whenever we create this widget, it's going to say, hey, give me your health component, buddy. And then you're going to plug that in. And then that way it always has the correct reference to the health component that is specifically for that object, right? So in our player, for example, I deleted it to do this tutorial, so I just got to refresh this. So we're going to refresh this. There's my health component saying, hey, give me your health component, buddy, right? So there's my player's health component. We're going to plug that into health components. And now it knows exactly which one it's subscribing to. It's subscribing specifically to my player character. If you have an enemy with a health bar above it, you're going to create this health bar widget inside of the enemy's class or whatever. And you'll add a health component to them, right? And then you'll create this widget, and then you'll plug in their health component. Now that health bar knows that it's referencing your enemy's health component, okay? So that's how you keep it all separate. In our health bar now, we're going to get our health component, and we are going to subscribe to that event. So we're going to say bind to health updated, okay? And now we've subscribed to the bind health updated event. So now we can drag it here. I'll show you another cool trick, okay? So instead of going add custom event, you can event dispatcher create event, okay? And now we can make a matching event, and now we're not tied with this event staying connected to that bind. You can move this anywhere in your event graph, say update health bar, and you'll see that there's our input now of our current health that's being sent from our event dispatcher. So now we can move this literally anywhere, so we don't have to keep this coupled together with that, okay? And now we can just set percent and plug in current health to current health, and it'll go in there and we'll set our percentage for our health bar, okay? So just to test to make sure that works, we're gonna just hit play. And oh, we didn't, in the player character, we didn't, okay, so there's one actual issue that I forgot to mention. So be careful when you are doing binds and stuff, because in this exact instance, I'm going to showcase this graph because I think it's very important to understand how Unreal Engine actually starts up the game. So this is available in my Discord if you guys want to, there's lots of great resources in there for stuff like this. So, okay, so here's the flow chart. So when Unreal Engine starts, it loads, obviously, its project settings, then the game instance, then it loads your level, then it needs to load the game mode, but in order for the game mode to load, it needs to load all of this stuff first. Then the game mode's loaded. Then it needs to load your player, and in order for the player to load, it needs to load all of this stuff first. So your HUD, your controller, right, all of that stuff. The character, including any components. So like your character movement component, your health component, all of those need to load first. And then all of your pawn stuff needs to load, and then your player is loaded. Okay, and then the event begin play fires. So the reason I say this is because, so if you tell Unreal Engine to bind things to bind to events, so like our health bar, we've told it to bind to this event, and maybe our health component has not finished initializing yet. So we're telling it to bind to this event before it even exists, right? So this will come in as nothing, and then this won't work. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So we just need to do one that is initialize health. We'll do that in our health component here. We're just going to add a delay of 0.1 second. You can probably even delay till next tick if you wanted to do something like that, but this won't be that big a deal. Just make sure this is at the end of the line, obviously, and then we're going to initialize our health. We're going to call that. Okay, and then it's asking for our current health and our max health because I put those in there. So we'll plug in our current health and our max health. Remember, you can just come up here and do all of your variables up here if you want to do something different, okay? All right, so we've called that event. Now we're going to go back to our health bar, and we're going to get our health component again, and I'll show you guys something else new. Okay, we're going to get out of there. We're going to assign on component or on initialize health, okay? That automatically creates event, okay? Or an event attached to this bind, so you don't have to do kind of multiple things at once. I do prefer this method because then I can actually organize my graph. Okay, first we are going to set our max health, and then we got to set our current health as well. Maybe I'll shuffle this down. So we got to set these variables first so that we have the data in here in order for my percentage thing to work. So then we'll set our percent, and then we'll plug in our current health, and then that should initialize our health from the beginning here, okay? All right, now let's test it out, make sure it works. There's our full health bar. We're going to walk up to our flower, and we took some damage. Okay, so we've successfully subscribed to that event, and now we need to do it for a couple of other things. And obviously, make sure you stick around, like I said, because there's a pretty detrimental thing that we're forgetting to do that I'll show you after. So we're gonna go to our sound effects manager, same thing, except this time, this is not able to add a health component and then have it, you know, be plugged in just like the health bar did, right? So we need to, in this case, get our player character, and then we need to get component by class, and we need to get the BPC health, okay? Okay, this way we're just getting the player character and then getting the component attached to the player character. So this keeps it still decoupled, right? And then we're going to bind to health update, right? So that's how you would get it in a actor that would not necessarily be attached to a health component in any variety, okay? So custom event, we'll call it play sound. Okay, so well, this obviously would say like play damage sound or whatever. I'm gonna grab my audio and I'm just gonna play my audio. Okay, so we'll do that, make sure that works. There we go. Okay, so that works great. And now we're gonna come back here, and we are going to go to our visual effects manager now. So we'll do one more cool thing I'll show you guys. So this will be the same as the sound effects manager right here, so we might as well just copy this and then paste it in our visual effects manager because it's exactly the same. There's going to be an error here, obviously. We can just say create a matching event, and we'll call this spawn particle effects. So we're going to want so this is a single actor in the world, so we'll need to update its location in order for it to play properly. So how do we do that without directly referencing the player or doing an interface or you're doing whatever? So what's something that's always with the player? The camera. So we can get player camera manager, and then we can get actor eyes viewport. Okay, so this returns the point of view of the actor. It doesn't necessarily mean the camera, it just means like the eye view of the actual actor. Okay, so that's a really quick and dirty and easy way to get the location of the character, especially if it's a first person. First person probably wouldn't work as well because it's going to spawn it directly on the character itself, whereas this is going to spawn it on the camera itself. So what you could do, we're going to grab our particle, sorry, we're going to set world location, set world location. There we go. Okay, so we'll plug this in. So yeah, obviously we don't need current health for this or for the sound effect manager. We're just subscribing to the event, but anything that needs the health has it. So you can either plug this right in, or you can, we'll get the forward vector, and we'll multiply it by, you know, we'll just make this a float We'll multiply it by like 50. Won't go that high. Then we got to add this. Recombine. We're going to add this to this, and then we're going to plug this into here. So now it's going to be our player's camera plus 50 units, or we'll do 100. I think 100 is probably better. Okay, and then you can adjust that if you need it, right? So we're going to teleport it directly there so we don't have any travel time. And now we're going to get the actor of class, or get player character, pardon me. We're going to get the get component of class. For some reason, I cannot select it. I'm so confused why I can't get component of class. I was able to do it here. Oh, is it component by class? I'm just going to copy this, and we'll see if that allows me to do that. Sure, and then we'll bind to health updated. Okay? And now it's going to tell me why I can't do it. Bind to pin is not dispatcher pin is not connected. Oh, well, yeah, of course. Okay, so we'll create event. Create a matching event. And we'll say spawn particle. Okay, and then the particle system, we're going to click on that, make sure it's deactivated by default. So we have auto activate turned off, which we do. And then we're going to grab the particle system and we're going to activate. Activate, there it is. Okay, and make sure you reset it so it starts over if it's activating again. And we will hit compile, and now we're going to test this out. Boom! So I didn't see the particle effect play. Okay, there it is. So yeah, a little bit of, you know, little bit of, what's it called? A little bit of playing with the numbers, but there we took damage, and now technically we died. So you could now have an event dispatcher once your health hits 0, calling out that you've died. And then your player character or controller, you can disable the input. You can disable mouse controls. You can, in your player, disable your collision, start ragdoll, all that kind of stuff. So you can have a whole bunch of stuff happen now on death with an event dispatcher, right? So event dispatchers are the way to stop coupling. However, there's one thing left to show you guys. Now for the single most common cause of crashes when using this pattern. But first, I want to make sure that you have your audio needs covered for your game by using Epidemic Sound. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music library with over 40,000 music tracks and 90,000 sound effects. You can clip, remix, and download tracks for commercial use, and just make sure that your project is named in your profile, and even after your subscription ends, the license is still valid. You can try Epidemic Sound for free for 30 days with the QR code on screen or the link in the description. If you decide to subscribe after the trial, then you'll be directly supporting me and the channel, and I appreciate you. Now let's talk about the single most common causes of crashes when using this pattern. It's a common mistake, life cycle management. When an observer, say a floating damage number that will bound to on-health change, is destroyed, but still bound to the publisher's delegate, the next broadcast will try to call a function on a destroyed object. That's a dangling pointer and it can result in a critical crash. Think of it like this. Unreal is an FPS player that is tied together to other FPS players, and if all of those players die, they just become dead weight, and Unreal can't drag all this dead weight around forever, causing it to crash. To fix this, every observer must explicitly unsubscribe from the event. So event dispatchers are the way to stop coupling. However, there's one thing left to show you guys that's very important, and you cannot skip this, okay? Or else just don't use event dispatchers, but your game's going to run interestingly buggy when it gets large. Okay, so when you bind to an event like this, okay, you need to unsubscribe from the event. This allows the garbage collection system in Unreal Engine to actually clean up the object, okay? So whenever you bind, get the event end play. There's event end play. You can get a switch on this if you want, but I mean, I don't think it's necessary. If it was destroyed, level transition, whatever, blah, 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 it doesn't really matter. We just want this to unsubscribe when it gets destroyed, okay? When you call the node destroy actor, that triggers this node, okay? So now we're gonna get this again. You can make this, you could make this if you wanted to, like if your blueprint graph was huge and you wanted to have end play somewhere else, you could make this a variable, promote this to a variable. Right? We'll call this health component. Plug that in here. And then what you can do is get your health component. And now we can unbind from health updated. So everyone that you bind to, you need to unsubscribe from, okay? The event, you can just create event, and then you can select the matching event, which in this case was the spawn particle effect. Okay, so that's the event that was binded to this. Okay, then we're going to get our health component and we're going to set it as nothing. We're going to clear the value in this, and then that way it basically invalidates anything to do with that component and all that. And then the garbage collection system, which runs there's no set time every time it runs, but it's not every frame or every second or anything like that. It's a little bit less frequent. When that comes, it's going to clean all this up, and it's going to check the visual effects manager if it's in the level or whatever, and it's going to say, okay, well, this has been destroyed. Do we need, is it linked to anything else? If it's linked to this health component, this bind, yes, it's linked to something else, doesn't destroy it. Okay, we've unbind this, we've canceled this, or we've set this as nothing, so this is invalidated. And now it's going to see, okay, this has no references to anything else in the engine. We can delete it. Okay. Actually, to be honest, maybe this set particle. We probably do the particle effect as well. What do we call this? Template. Okay, set template. Set template particle system. We're going to clear that. Now this has nothing in it. And now anything else that's referenced inside your content drawer, you're going to make sure that it's cleared out. Okay. That's going to help you out in the long run, because now this can get destroyed. Now your memory stays happy, right? Okay, I'm not going to do the other ones, but this is basically what you do in every one of them, okay? You're going to make sure that you're unbinding to all the events, clearing all the values, and then you have a nice, happy, complete game. I'm going to show you guys like an actual real life example of this unbinding, just so it kind of makes a lot of sense. So I'm in the test level for my game, and I have some crops over here that I've told to grow one stage, which you see they just did at midnight every single day. Okay, so I've achieved that with an event dispatcher, because obviously you can see how many different plants there are. There's a lot. And I'm not able to harvest them until they're fully grown. But yeah, so if I didn't have the unbind on these crops, then obviously all of these would just be in the world dangling in memory, and my game would run very poorly, okay? So if you guys do want to learn how to make these crops, I have a procedurally generated series. You guys can watch that. You make a farm pen, you make basically a pen for foliage and stuff that you can remove the fence for, and just have a really easy tool to make foliage in a small area. And then also you make this crop tool. So there, so I have this. So now I've interacted with all of these things, and now since I've interacted with them, added them to my inventory, obviously they've been destroyed from the world. Okay, so now that's where the unbind thing comes in, right? So if I open up my day-night cycle, right here it is. So it's checking, is it midnight? And then we call the dispatcher on day up. Okay, that's all you need. And then every single actor, so my crop class, I bind it to the event on day up. When it's day up, we are triggering the crop growth. So the crop growth event will fire every time the day is up. We are checking every time it ages up. If it's the maximum age it can be, then it automatically unsubscribes from the event. Okay, so it doesn't just sit there for 5, 6, 7 days after it's already been matured as a plant and continues to receive these updates, right? It's just not really worth it, and then you're saving yourself a step. But I still have on end play that we're unbinding from the crop growth event. That's why it's super important. In the next video, we'll dive into another critical pattern, the factory method, which solves problems of spawning complex data-driven objects. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. If you want to watch something in the meantime, I have a video right there, how you've been learning interfaces wrong, or perhaps that one's more for you. Special thanks to my Coffee Royal members. Members support what I do and get access to perks in the Discord. Head over to my Coffee page to learn more. But regardless, if you want a place to talk to other developers in a safe, positive community dedicated to learning, then join my TG Realm Discord. And as always, keep learning until you game over. Peace.